Hey, this is Jack. I'm a star. I'm here with a, I'm going to say nameless soldier, and he wants to hear what I'm going to.
Heart stops every time I look at you because you're so hot. I love you.
Okay, that's great for you.
Michael, this is Shane. Quit texting me.
That's Sleepy Shane.
Every single David Rubini mention, for sure. Edward Rubini, David Rubini, and of course anything alluding to him that you can think of.
Now, why?
And all the anti-Semites. So anything David Rubini, I would recommend that you tell Texas Man to take that stuff down. Anything alluding to David Rubini needs to be taken down.
Instructions at Texas
So go through his negative David Rubini at all. Moving forward or anything from the past. Nothing. Anything will be found and it will not be good for you. Or her, Allison Shaw. Or Texas Man. Or
Good to
Michael
know.
Deacon.
Yeah, I wasn't.
What's Texas?
You fucking asshole.
Some guy from Texas who pretended to be me.
Okay.
That you mentioned before. I think it was before. Go ahead and spark up. Okay. Shit, why not? This isn't the. Many voicemails left by. As you in
Just
the
want to leave
future.
you a message saying I just read your text. I'm in better shape today. A few other people did. Of course, last night I had to get the couple screwed until 3 a.m. So it's a little hard to sleep with all that noise next door. Anyway, read what you said. Yeah, I agree. Sounds interesting. Wish you a happy holiday season, Merry Christmas. I don't
He's
know if
pretty
you're
good, but he was
still
kind of
here
tired of
or where you're at, but or within the region or at the house you told me about. But hope you are hanging out with some friends for Christmas. Few people didn't have any Christmas thing to do,
I prefer you.
so I want to do something for them, I guess. I'll find out today before you go.
I love this guy.
Anyway, call me back at some point here.
I don't have no much. Yeah, I just love you. Bye.
Okay, that's great for you again. Well, there's another one that comes up later. And then it sounds completely
Love
different.
her.
And, I don't know if I'll ever see her again.
Listen to her. She's using 2 phones. Oh my gosh.
I love you. I love you.
No,
I
I think
love you.
that's the same one as well.
I love you. I love you.
I think that's the
Exactly
one
how I love you.
that
go.
That wasn't really the
Mostly
kind of relationship I was looking at.
Copyright Magic Castle LLC.
Okay.
Hey, Keith Rollins, David Rubini. Oh, fuck, I dealt with him.
I think that's Van Dieven.
Hi, Keith.
Or,
Jackrabbit.
this one.
Elsie told me you were cheating on me. What are you doing? Do you have your flashlight out?
Dude, I've...
Hey, I'm be back. I'm doing good for melody. I'm doing for melody.
I can never call her back.
Okay, I'm on it.
Whenever I've tried to have a conversation with that person, the connection is broken. Either the text just spontaneously stopped going off, or she gets replaced by somebody who's trying to pretend to be her, but isn't her. Because whoever that woman is, I'm not allowed to talk to her, because she's the descended karmic double of a woman who's beyond the heliopause, running her like a robot, but it's not a robot, it's her. But she's from outside of relative space. And I think she's also the woman who showed up here during a exchange I had with Allie, where she acted like a Stepford wife going apeshit, and then suddenly she kind of like screamed, and then these crisscrossing lines of it looked like broken glass, as if reality was shattering, and then they fell to the floor. And then Allie was replaced by a different woman, different hair, different clothes, who wasn't the same girl at all, but was still friendly. And then she explained that she was in heaven and communicating with me through a mirror that allowed her to express her consciousness through Archangel Metatron. So, I mean, she was hot, but she was half dead, so we didn't have sex. We just did a lot of drugs, and then in the morning she was gone. Now, where did you find that tape?
Why don't you say that? Because
You don't still have it, do you?
yes.
Okay, well, we could listen to it, but I'm not going to put it on YouTube. Okay, so that's the end of the recording. And then thanks for listening, Belgab. Waka waka, click.
3, 2, 1, ignition.
Jack. Astronaut. Exposed to inappropriate levels of solar energy.
Sunlight makes him the world's smartest man.
I know everything! I want that brain taken out.
Heat Vision. The motorcycle with the mind of Jack's unemployed roommate. Together they run for their lives, blocked at every turn by adventure.
Move out, don't mess around. Move out, you bring me down. Move out, I forget about, don't make the sound and move out.
Now that's his power. For real.
Hey, it's Jack. I'm a star. I, for one, welcome the appearance of our new overlords, but would prefer that they don't attach to my corpus callosum. To that end, we have, what's this here? Come on. Skoltech researchers. What's a Skoltech? Skoltech. There's an article in my Google feed. Carbon nanotube black paint absorbs terahertz radiation to cut 6G interference. Did you know we had 6G? I didn't know we had 6G. I heard about 5G, and then the 5D, and then I guess now they're working on, I guess they don't like the 5D, so they want the 6G to get out of the 5D, which makes sense, since I guess for some people it's hell on earth. Skoltech. Skolt. I've never heard this word before. Researchers and their colleagues from KTH Royal Institute of Technology in Sweden, crazy Swedes, have created an important building block for future 6G communication technology, which will make wireless data transfer at superior transmission rates possible. The newly developed piece of the 6G puzzle is not a device component, but a carbon nanotube-based black paint of sorts that thoroughly absorbs electromagnetic radiation wherever its transmission would be detrimental. Like outside your orgone accumulator in your basement or whatever. The study was published in Nature Communications. I didn't know we had a Nature Communications. Occupying the middle ground between infrared light used in night vision and microwaves used to heat your lunch, terahertz radiation is a promising band of electromagnetic waves for 6G communication, advanced biomedical imaging, and sensing. So that means when they're scanning for life forms from low Earth orbit, and data is scanning for tiny little life forms. Okay, so I guess they built this paint that's got carbon nanotubes in it, and then data can't find your life forms if they're huddled in a tent that's been sprayed with this paint that they invented in Sweden. Can you believe that shit? That's fucking cool. And then they just tell me about it on my Google feed. Cool. Thanks, Google. I wonder how many people are aware of this kind of thing happening, since most people aren't really worried about extraterrestrial spacecraft orbiting the planet and scanning the surface dwellers that might look tasty, since that kind of thing doesn't usually happen anymore, or it's not supposed to happen because of the treaty. Okay, well, look, number one, I'll get back to the treaties in a minute, and then number two, even if there's treaties between civilized beings that don't traffic people, Earth is in a free-for-all zone. There's no space god that's going to stop space pirates from coming out from outer space and hoovering up your sister and taking her to Orion and painting her green. There's really nothing stopping a civilization that has that kind of technology from doing that, other than the certitude that if they do that, people are going to go after them and then mess up their shit. Since historically people are reluctant to just dispose of their siblings when they're fond of them, especially considering things and stuff having to do with divine right of ascension. Anyway, most people aren't paying attention to stuff that goes on beyond the heliopause. Most people listening to me shouldn't even be aware that there's something beyond the heliopause, because the firmament, when the Creator separated the waters from the earth and put the stars in the sky, all that shit, it's kind of a metaphor, but Earth is supposed to be a inviolable space where beings can live out their lives with a different set of circumstances that don't usually include motherfucking space pirates beaming down and kidnapping your sister and hauling her ass off to Orion to pimp her out to space pimp dick thugs. Copyright Magic Castle LLC. It's not really a fanciful story. It's kind of I'm kind of speaking in code. Like, it doesn't really happen that way. He lied. What happens is something else involving crystalline matrix false reality tunnels, which are created by higher dimensional planar beings, also known as angels, archons, demons, where they can fold space and they can trick humans into walking into a tunnel that makes them not where they used to be anymore, which is something that used to happen a lot less often and lately seems to be happening more commonly than people would like, and doesn't usually bear much discussion over, since, well, I mean, they made 9 Hellraiser movies. I don't think we need to top it off with a do-it-yourself web series. Make your own lament configuration out of tin cans and string. Lament configuration. What's actually happening is it's beyond my capacity to describe in terms that are understandable to the average human, which which doesn't mean I'm speaking about nonsense. It just means I'm describing the indescribable in a way that will hopefully allow me to continue to live in a society that has a functional economy, so that one day I can get paid for my creative work without being crucified upside down with my legs broken, which is usually what happens to people who talk about this stuff. A lot of reasons for up to and including they're usually French and assholes. Nostradamus wrote about all his little things that he saw, whatever he did. I don't know, he got really high and stirred into a culture or something. He wrote all those quatrains as poetry in an encrypted way to avoid getting crucified upside down with his legs broken. And rather than do that myself, I've decided to run my yap on my little YouTube program, part of the Magic and Broadcasting Content Delivery Network. It's a small network, but we can make waves. And while I had hoped to live ensconced in my haunted church mile west of Exit 52, protected military dudes without being at all obvious about it, turns out that's not probably going to be allowed for a variety of reasons. For one thing, the treaties that interact in an interesting way with the elder trust that has created and supported the Michael Cousy Special Needs Trust, they weren't really designed to give me a stable foundation for a static warp bubble so I could live in my ivory tower and get high and masturbate all day. I mean, it does work for that purpose, but it kind of makes the locals kind of uneasy, mostly since they're not invited. And historically, this is the kind of arrangement that leads to humans getting all kinds of corrupted with phenomenal power and getting themselves tricked into being trapped in a lamp, or spawning a wave of shitlings that take over the countryside, or a new foundation of a satanic church or something. I don't want to do any of that stuff. What did I want to do? I wanted to breed cats. It wasn't even going to be anything weird. I like cats. I figured I could be like a crazy cat lady with a dick. What would be wrong with that? Okay, well, funny story. A lot of things would be wrong with that. So that's not going to happen. And then additionally, I didn't plan on losing the two people who ostensibly were going to be arriving with me. Those of you who don't pay that close attention to the batshit lunacy that makes up the narrative of my life, that's Grapefruit and Tinkerbell. And whether or not they're one person or two, or whether they're people at all, you know, it's a matter of some debate in higher dimensional conclaves all over the multiverse, which sounds like, doesn't that sound like bullshit? It sounds like bullshit to me. Nevertheless, it's true. There's various special interest groups that handle this stuff on the daily. Magic potions, magic spells, magic bullshit. Whether they're insane or not is not really the issue. The point is that there's enough people around who believe in that shit and have built their entire lives around it and have cultures that are embedded into American society. Whether or not they're completely insane or not, in America, all of that kind of philosophical examination and experimentation, that's all a guaranteed right, as set forth in the Declaration of Independence. It's one of the founding principles of this country. It's why there is a country here. And while there are certainly many people who think the entire idea was a bad one. There's substantially more people who know for a fact that global anarchy is a far worse idea. So, in avoidance of that outcome, I'm still hanging out here at the haunted church up in Coles County, best county, and I have court in the morning, which I plan on appearing at by Zoom, and I don't expect it to go poorly for me. I think it's going to go great for me. And to those people out there who are hoping to get me jammed up in your cloak and dagger web of intrigue and have me sit and rot away in a prison cell while you run around with my name, my money, my women, my pets, my social contacts, such as they are, I say no. I'm not done with my body, certainly. Kind of like it now that it works. I like being alive. I like living in a country where I'm not subjected to harsh Islamic law. I mean, Islam's cool, but I don't think it belongs in the Pacific Northwest. Especially since I would just pay the jizya. I don't fucking mind. And the efforts of various what's the word I'm looking for? Not anti-revolutionary, but people from Central and South America who really want to teach the United States a lesson. But they can do that without consuming my life as a fucking spell reagent and sacrificing my essence as their sacrifice to Dark Lord Satan so they can bring about global anarchy. I mean, they've had their chance to do that. They gave it the good old college try, and the result of that has been I'm walking down the road in the dark, in the rain, talking on my Google Pixel 6, which I can't believe still works, carrying a whole bunch of custom spook software. And rather than being put into shackles and hauled off to a prison, I'm probably going to stroll up to an FBI field office one of these days and hand them my phone and say, here, clone this. Since I don't know what happens between my phone and the rest of the world, but definitely nothing involving giving me money. People take my money. People don't give me money. Money that people think they're giving to me apparently gets diverted by Jews, Leafs, and Hell's Angels. Two out of three of which I quite like, but another one not real fond of their wop mustaches and their dago hair. Like, I don't know what this guy was thinking. I'm not going to say his name, Bustin', but he's such a dick, and he runs around acting like he's above the law because he is, and that he's doing something important because he was, and that I'm the only thing standing between him and total victory. He likes to believe that because it enables him to continue to believe that there is no God. I can assure you all, God is real, and God loves you. And while Satan is God in the public school system, I'm 52, I'm pretty fucking far past public school. It's entirely for a person to believe that there's no God and to have the experience that there isn't a God. But in reality, there's still God. God created creation. God created the engine of creation that created creation. And God uses the engine of creation to live within creation. All at the same. That's the secret of the Holy Trinity. Three aspects, one being ultimate divine authority. And that authority comes from love. It doesn't come from hatred. It doesn't come from law. And it sure as shit doesn't come from Magyar blood being spilled and then licked up by fucking homeless vets being turned into kittens and puppies. standards. So, rather than explain all of this in some book that gets published by some weird, creepy publishing house and then relegated to weird occult bookstores across the country, and then never read by anybody, and then banned in every country where it's read, I've decided to simply not write anything down yet, following the great tradition trailblazed by Daddy Bush. Nothing on paper. Those of you who have been listening to me, willingly or not, I'm sure you all agree with me. I've said too much. I've said more than enough. And I really need to stop running my yap. Yeah, I agree. That's why the U.S. Navy has this ability to go on the internet and make the things that I've said go away. Poof. Like it was never there. And this is made possible by two facts that are verbal. Number one, I want them to. And number two, it's their internet. They get to. Since there's no conflict there between my military and their citizen, it's not going to lead to some kind of obscene technocratic Armageddon. Polite society isn't going to have a meltdown with cats and dogs living together causing mass hysteria. No, it's going to be something else. I'm not sure what, but all of this is made possible by the fact that I'm not writing a book. Don't plan to write a book. At the moment, I want to write a book, and when I do, it's not going to be the Further Chronicles of Nostradamus, Part 2, now with meth. Although that would be, that'd be fun for a few minutes, but the kind of thing, historically, always gets out of hand and leads to shit like your book being called the Necronomicon and being published with metal clasps and locks on it and curses and shit. That's just not the kind of author I want to be. Unless my military would like me to. And I don't know if you've noticed, but they're busy. They're handling other stuff that's way more important than the freedom of information. Don't get me wrong. I know a lot of cool stuff. And some of that cool stuff is immensely valuable. Especially since I don't plan on firing up a ceremonial magical ritual at a military base and causing an explosion like Jack Parsons did. Fucking dick. What an asshole. And since I'm not doing that, or trying to write a book, it would appear that the leeway that I've been given by the military and the various systems of justice, kudos, it appears that I'm going to be allowed to continue to do that since I got court in another city that I rarely go to and never think of, but now it's in Superior Court, not District Court. And since the place is 200 miles away, I don't have a driver's license officially. I don't have a vehicle, literally. And nobody's going to be picking me up when I stick my thumb out. I'm going to be showing up digitally and then speaking to the amusing and enlightening charges that have been levied against me for the last little while. People have asked me why I had to be arrested and why I don't have a job and why I shit off my porch. They ask a lot of whys. I assume because they're trying to get me to incriminate myself or make statements that would lead the casual listener to conclude that I really was batshit insane. But the reality is, I didn't know about any of this stuff until I got duck-walked into a box ambush, which was supposed to eradicate me and my sweetie and sweep everything under the rug. Used to be that's how they took care of troublesome witnesses. Give them a lobotomy, throw them in solitary confinement, take all their money, spread rumors that they diddle children. None of that works in this circumstance. Anybody. Don't want to. Don't plan to. Don't need to. And have little to no interest in dealing with that aspect of human life at all. Never made sense to me when I was in my late teens and early 20s. And I discovered that people were taking time out of their day to attach my name to words like pedophilia and needle junkie, and then posting them to the internet on Usenet and other places, which is forever, by the way. Even when the Navy comes by with its worm and erases that, there's still a record of that having been published on the worm. And at that point in my life, I didn't realize that my Navy is that cool. Thanks, guys. American military is incredible. And it didn't dawn on me at all that there was a really good reason why I was selected to be the scapegoat for a bunch of just whack job occult shit that most people don't need to know anything about. I've come to realize that the reason why is because I'm exactly like Jack Parsons, except for the part about being addicted to sex and power and willing to risk blowing myself up on a military base and a satanic sex orgy in a pentagram while trying to summon down a intergalactic being, which is apparently what he was trying to do. And whether he succeeded at all or not, on at least one phrase of reality, he blew himself up, like in Grandpa's lab. And realistically, who knows whether or not that was just what they did to the site after he opened the portal and jumped through it with his space highs, or his fucking unicorn bitches, or whatever he did. It's really impossible to say, since at that point in post-World War II military science, they had just dropped bombs on Japan, thus paralyzing the triads, and they had a whole bunch of technology that they captured from the German technocratic Nazi apparatus that they brought over along with the scientists in Operation Paperclip. Talk about a deluxe version of the Trojan horse. All that technology the OSS brought over to America, and they used it all to empower the CIA to become the carnival of drug-running pimp thugs that we have today. Kudos. Now, I don't want to say it's because of Jews, but for years, this is the kind of world we existed in. So, if anybody's wondering why this whole drug war has been a tough nut to crack, or why I've been adamant in my belief that I should stand up for my civil rights and proudly say, yeah, I get to get high and fuck. That doesn't mean I get to endanger society by having ceremonial magical military base, but I think it speaks highly of my character that after having had the opportunity to do that kind of thing, I never have. Not because my weed and my drug paraphernalia and my and my bedclothes have been taken by the spooks that come and go from my house. Although they have. But because that's not what I had in mind. I can see how not everybody would have been willing to believe what I had to say, or take my statements at face value, or have an assurance that a paladin on a mission from God isn't just going to suddenly spin on a dime and change their mind, since most people don't know God personally. Most people don't trust God at all. And quite a few people are angry at God for their belief that God has made terrible mistakes and allowed terrible tragedies to happen. Which, from some certain philosophical angles, is entirely true. In reality, it's far more complicated. And rather than attempt to try and explain it and get my tongue cut out and thrown into a fucking gulag, or have books that I've been trying to publish become fodder for another fatwa. Hey, Salman. What's up? Rather than do any of that, I've decided to walk in the rain, working on my cardio at 1:10 in the morning. And I'm doing it on the road because my house has been commandeered by spooky mil-spec types who, I'm not gonna lie, it's a little awkward talking about some of this stuff when I know they can hear me, and when I can hear them pounding on the wall and screaming in frustration when I say certain things that they either don't agree with or had been previously hoping that I didn't know anything about. Some people have surmised that I'm some kind of a schizophrenic who remotely views the thoughts of eldritch arcane scholars from other dimensions, and I just unspool like microfiche, blah 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 blah, and then I'm just reading what other people have come up with in other planes of reality where this kind of stuff happens all the time. Here in the real world, 3D Earth, America, circa 2026. Hi, this is my home, my world, and most of these things would be considered to be secret were they to be blabbered on about by neophytes or acolytes or initiates of some secret society that makes its bread and butter off of manipulating this data information that they possess and exploiting these kind of powers for whatever they do with them. I'm not part of those groups. I don't know if I want to be. Being a level 0 Freemason is quite a bit different from being an actual Freemason. And even if I am a member of the Order of the Eastern Star, typically a person isn't supposed to be attached to all these different spooky triad groups. Like they're supposed to be separate, like the three branches of government: judicial, executive, legislative, like in the Constitution. Secret occult wisdom is set up much the same way, and thankfully, I don't plan on breaking those rules. I like being sane, for one thing. H.P. Lovecraft was writing about this kind of stuff in a much more occluded way, and in his books, people who got too close to this kind of stuff went insane. It was considered to be a real danger, because it is. Most people would not be able to handle the knowledge of the things that I've learned over the last 5 years. And those that can have already been, I'm going to say, recruited by various spooky groups. I guess. Hey, spooks. That's usually what happens. And that's what's going to happen in my case. However, because of some odd scheduling conflicts and some people who have taken advantage of people's ignorance, most notably mine, and because of my parents' profound ignorance in not knowing to do with their wonderkin child who tested with 176 IQ at age 3. I think the thing to do with me was not to hide the truth from me and assume that I was going to grow up to make a job that they could launder money behind and create money to supplant their own spooky income. I don't know what the fuck, but I grew up being told, do well in school, go to college, get a degree, and then get a good job, and then, solve the Y2K problem. That was the extent of the advice I got. And as it turns out, I didn't really want to do that. So I didn't. And now 26 years later, haven't made a whole lot of money, which is fine. And then the money that has been, I'm going to say, thrown at me in an attempt to bribe me has been intercepted by various people who have impersonated me by taking my name and then have kept me in the dark while running their own spooky shenanigans without telling me. These people don't expect to have to be answerable to me. And they're not. They're actually answerable to the divine. Since, as it turns out, a leap between the lands of the living and the lands of the dead is remarkably well enforced when people on both sides of the veil of death have been ruthlessly exploiting little Michael Cousy. No shame in it for trying, really, but believing that they're going to be able to do that forever and that I need to be castigated or drawn and quartered for not allowing these fucking, I'm going to say, arcane highwaymen. I get that they can do that kind of shit to other people because those other people have made contracts with the divine that they've broken, but I'm not really in that category. I don't have sex with 16-year-old girls not because I'm gay, but because that's generally illegal to do, as well as not nearly as much fun as it might sound. Right? And since I don't plan on becoming compelled by magical gayists to become a degenerate reprobate baby thumper, the usual way of getting people under control doesn't seem to be working too well. Since basically, rather than being quiet and praying to God every night while weeping tears of abject fear, I'm getting ready to go to court in the morning where I'm going to say nothing about what I've just been talking about. I'm going to respond adequately to the claims that have been made, and hopefully something sensible will happen, and then I won't have to hire a lawyer and get all freaky. Like, fuck, I'm just not in the mood for this kind of nonsense. I'm an old man, practically a boomer, and I can see why people get, not really addicted, but I can see why people are enchanted by the clandestine life. Hang on. Honestly, I can see why people love this cloak and dagger shit. Since it's it's really fascinating. And members of the military whose job it is to do this kind of thing on the down low, quietly, without making any kind of fuss. I can see why I bother them, since they can't just shoot me and they can't tell me what to do, and I think under most circumstances they can't even interact with me, since we're on different planes of reality, which once again may sound like bullshit, but the thing about living on a haunted graveyard under military jurisdiction that's a Native American battle and burial ground, and the focal point of a whole bunch of treaties, some of which have been shattered by people who were trying to upset the balance of power. Yeah, apparently it's a big deal. None of which I knew anything about until I spent quite a lot of time here wondering, how come my phone doesn't work? Where's all my money? How come somebody broke into my house over and over? What's going on here? Where's my sweetie? What? Like, I get it now, but it took quite a few months of contemplative prayer and meditative solitude, while apparently drowning myself in craft cider. It took quite a lot of introspection to figure out why all this shit was happening, how it was happening, and what it had to do with anything. Most notably, these fucking Epstein files, which, I'm just going to say this. Stop worrying about it, Puniling. Like, that is old fucking news. The whole thing is an immense iceberg of truly divine proportions. And to try and explain it to the common masses is a complete exercise in futility. For one thing, nobody really wants to know. They just want it to be fucking handled. And since it is being handled in ways that can't really be talked about, a lot of people who would like it to be handled in a different way are paying a whole bunch of attention to the Persian Gulf and the Strait of Hormuz and the Kingdom of Iran, also known as Persia, who, well, I don't know many Iranians, and I certainly have no beef with their people, but it turns out that committing acts of black sorcery in a Bermuda Triangle-esque pattern between Tehran and Kashmir and I think Sri Lanka or something, with oversight by a bunch of Temple of Set uber shrews living underneath Diego Garcia. Just because it's on the other side of the world doesn't mean it doesn't affect mom and pop stores in middle America in ways that I'm not going to ever talk about, since I have a cordial relationship with members of the Temple of Set. I'd like to keep it that way. They do their thing, great. I do God's thing. And while my mission for God doesn't involve anything to do with these groups, especially not the Temple of Set, hail, some people have often wondered, well, what am I going to do when my mission's done? Am I gonna become another batshit crazy fucking lunatic statesman like Hank Kissinger? No, although I do want a parking space. And then, how much of what I'm saying is actually real? They wonder. How much of this shit does NSA surveillance have to pay attention to when I turn on my Google Pixel 6 spook phone and start yammering into Google Recorder, which sends a copy of everything that I say to China because Larry Ellison incorporated it and then sold Google to Alphabet and then sold Alphabet to China and then flipped it so that Google owned Alphabet. I mean, that's a cool dodge and all, but what it really means is that China is in your phone, which doesn't bother me any. I love China. And since I don't plan on invading them or pulling a shady trade deal like Nixon or ever going to the Chinese mainland without an invitation. I don't really need to, but since I'm a descendant of the Mongol hordes and a full Magyar blood prince, descendant of Hercules, if I start running around following the footsteps of the Dalai Lama, all of that would cause a lot of disruption, since I'm not the Dalai Lama. I'm not the Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh. I'm not a prophet. I'm a sorcerer. Sorcerer, not a sorcerer. Which makes a big difference, especially to people who know the difference. And as funny as it is to freak people out who don't know any better by getting high as balls and wandering all over town, I'm a sorcerer, buy me some beer. As funny as that is, for one thing, Emperor Norton already did it, so it's hackneyed. And then for another, it kind of makes my Sweeties family feel a little dumb, since until recently they were firmly convinced that their best course of action was to lie to me and turn me into a pigeon and then make soup out of me, which is in fact a legitimate honor, and the fact that I earned the right to be considered as such, it's a big deal. I don't want them to feel bad that I'm not going to be soup, not even goulash. Hi family. Hi. They're kind of embarrassed because they've never been schooled this bad before. Not even by Washington. And while I'm sympathetic to their bruised egos, that doesn't mean I'm going to jump into the fucking boiling pot. Okay? Doesn't mean that I'm going to let them be used as tools of the Dominican Republic, who infiltrated the American domestic surveillance establishment, try and get revenge for Haiti and other crimes that the United States government committed against South America and Central America over the years. Like United Fruit. You guys know about United Fruit? The fucking companies, bunch of assholes in the 60s and 70s. Once they killed Kennedy, they figured they could just do whatever they wanted. And they could. They did do whatever they wanted, which mostly involved trafficking drugs, women, and money back and forth to other continents, thinking they were going to destabilize other countries and creating a foundational superstructure of American hegemony across the globe as a satellite adjunct of the German Fourth Reich, who ran off to New Schwabenland after faking Hitler's death. Allegedly. Right? Now, I don't want to go too far off into the woods about all this, but everything I just said is kind of true, and not something that most people want to hear about on the 10 o'clock news. Just ask Douglas Dietrich about that. Hey Doug, I don't think there's much place in the world for the real occult history of global conflict with a splash of the divine added to it. I don't think there's any need to rewrite textbooks into the great unwashed proletariat masses what's really going on. No. The great unwashed proletariat masses already know what's going on. Rapacious, brutal exploitation and slavery of humankind by forces beyond our comprehension, both from beyond the heliopause and from the nether regions of whatever exists beneath the firmament. It's fucking nasty. Cthulhu and the old ones and stuff. Those are stories. Those are fictional characters, but they're meant to be representations of real divine power. Actual living astral beings, some celestial, some not, that use Earth as their little playground. They fight over the lives of punilings like it matters, because it does, in this weird alchemical way. That's what the stories of the Olympian gods are all about, the pantheon of Hera and Zeus and Demeter and all that shit. I don't know how many people still get taught that stuff in school. Probably not many. But a long time ago, Those were real people that did real shit. And they're still real people doing real shit. They're just not doing it here. They're off beyond the veil, both between life and death and between soul and the extrasolar federation of planets. I don't know, whatever the fuck's going on beyond the heliopause. You know Voyager? That probe they launched in the 70s? Today, it gets to be a significant milestone away from Earth. It's one light day away, assuming that the speed of light remains constant for that far, and assuming that the model of extra dimensional solar, whatever, assuming that what the theoretical astrophysicists are theorizing about is anything close to reality, Voyager is one day away at the speed of light. And supposedly that fucking thing is still talking to us with radio waves? Really? Yeah, well, it's a little bit more complicated than that. And any of you who are truly interested in knowing how complicated it is, if you can sit through the uncut, restored version of Star Trek the Motion Picture, the first movie they made, with that blonde dame who gets turned into a android robot and then gets translated into the Matrix with Christopher Decker, who gets all mad because Kirk shows up and takes away his starship. Remember that? I remember at the time it was fucking inscrutable to me what was going on. And I won't share the story now, but there was this weird humiliation ritual that happened with this friend of mine and his father. And my childhood was filled with these humiliation rituals. Anyway, I didn't understand what was happening. I think I was only 5. But as I look back on it now, I realize that movie was certainly prophetic in describing what awaits humanity in the future. Since they have plastic bald bimbos now that you can jump into the Matrix with and have sex with. They have starships. Not for you, puny, but they have them. And I think William Shatner is still kicking, supposedly. I haven't heard that he died, or maybe he did. It's kind of weird with that Mandela effect thing. I heard they put him onto a ship and he was put into orbit and then brought back down, which is about as far as he needs to go. And I guess he's in his 90s. And he's got those books, those Tech Wars. You remember Tech War? He had TEK trademarked, and then he had a bunch of authors writing books for him, and it was William Shatner's Tech War. That's a cool idea. I don't know who leveraged that kind of shit, but let's put it this way: if I tried writing books about that kind of stuff, I'd run into a hard brick wall. Since I'm just not invited to those kind of parties. And for all those reasons and more, I don't get to write books. I don't get to make a living with my ability to craft sentences that form paragraphs and paragraphs that form essays. Essays that can be collected into chapters and chapters that can be formed into books. I don't get to do that. Fuck no. If I did that, well, let's just say it'd be a cold day in hell before my book showed up on the shelf at B. Dalton. Instead, I get to babble into the phone, and then whether or not anybody ever gets to hear it, that's the dominion of my military. My military. Best military. Thanks, guys. They're not super happy arrangement, but given that I don't piss in their Cheerios and risk being burnt at the stake like Joan of Arc, they seem to be pretty okay with the job. The little paladin who could, the paladin with promise, Michael Cousy. Anyway, where was I? Oh my God, 51 minutes with Jackstar. Oh, I got a message from a friend. Says, thank you so much. You made me very happy. No, really happy. That's cool. And then here's another guy. I'm lost, but as usual, I'm always lost when you speak like this. I just know that I don't want to be involved with ellipses. I'm changing my ways for the good, and I'm staying on top of my goals this time around and not just letting people control my everything I do to be happy and at peace. I'm tired of losing and starting over and over with less and less in my life each time I'm done. Oh, I'm so happy. I won't say who, but that's my friend who was pretty heavily involved in some shady, spooky business. And that friend and the other friend are certainly the other two people who would have formed a triad of sacrifice along with me that originally was the plan to just burn us, blame us for everything, and then put us in prison and have us shanked, and then have everybody be blamed, or have everybody blame us for whatever happened, and then the actual perpetrators would be allowed to go about their business, since that's what used to happen. I don't want that to happen. Nor is it necessary to track down the ghost of Jeffrey Epstein and dig up his bones and reanimate him with necromancy and force him to tell the truth at a seance with Harry Houdini. That's not going to happen either, since people who know already know, and people who don't know don't want to know. What they want is a scapegoat. And I don't think that myself and my friend and my other friend, I don't think that those were the right scapegoats. So that's why I've done what I've done without being at all obvious about it, since I didn't do it to get their money or to have sex with them, although I probably will later. I did it so that I wouldn't be contributing to the downfall of American society and the collapse of the world into global anarchy, which most people in a position to decide wanted for America rather than their countries, since I guess it was a plan of Satanists in power in Washington and Denver and other strongholds of the occult in America. I guess it was their plan to sacrificing third world countries like Haiti, like Ethiopia, like Iran. To the plans of Dr. No and Dr. Fu Manchu and Dr. Asshole, I say no. So that's why I get to say all these things and be real snotty about it, and why I'm not dead yet, and why I'm not writing a book, and why I have special needs, and why whoever it is who stole my Social Security benefits, yeah, they're going to bring those back. Okay, I don't need to fucking beg for cigarette money. I don't need to be sober. I don't need to be getting a job breaking down boxes behind the Safeway for 18-20 hours a day. I don't need to be a drug mule. I don't need to be a drug addict. I don't need to be a dope mongering pimp thug. They got plenty of those. I barely want to cuddle now. Fucking just sick to death of all this fucking nonsense. So until my sweetie gets over her disappointment at being able to make me into soup and telling her superior officers that she's redeemed the honor of the Algonquin people by getting little Michael Kuzi under control, I was never out of control. And I truly believe that if I needed to be made into soup, my sweetheart would have made soup out of me and my cockles and my entrails. And her tribe, my family, would have gleefully consumed my broth and set my spirit free to be placed into the body of a different pigeon, or not a buzzard, but Not an eagle either. Maybe a condor. I don't know. Probably not into the body of a plastic rape lord, although I hear that's a popular choice. It's not that I don't feel honored to be selected to be made into soup. I just think that the Algonquin people can do better this time. And even if I'm wrong, I'm in a position to say what happens to my bones. Not going to be broken to be made into bread. Not going to be dissolved into broth. Bone broth. No. I don't know what's going to happen. But it's real. Sweetie's alive. We can't talk. She's not super happy about it, but at least she's not going stabby and going on a blender tour of the United States, which is what would have happened. What could still happen, since this whole MK Ultra thing really is not to be trifled with. It's not a technology that mankind is meant to be using to turn women into dope smuggling whores at the behest of company interests, so that import-export interests can make an extra 5% on their profit margin for their shareholders. That's not what MK Ultra is all about. I don't know what it's all about, but these are not robots. They're human women. Even if they are subjugated members of a conquered people. That's going to be handled later on, since I don't think George Washington really intended to keep them as prisoners for 200 and... How many years has it been? 1771, 250 years, something like that. Yeah, so it might have seemed like a good idea to have them bound to an eternal contract that lasts for all eternity, because that's what they were thinking in the 1700s. The Masons with the powdered wigs and the fucking black and white, and but there's never two. The philosophically advanced members of the founding fathers were still struggling with the desire of whether or not to breed their slaves and talk about it, and they were still trying to grow. So, since we're not going to do a constitutional convention to address all these issues, something else is going to happen. And if any of you have read the Chronicles of Thomas Covenant by the great Stephen Donaldson, who's now dead, I think, I heard anyway. He's a tremendous science fiction and fantasy author. He also wrote The Gap Cycle, which was really good, and he wrote some other books. Anyway, in the Chronicles of Thomas Covenant, there were these people called the Harachi, or Harukai, and they lived in the lands beyond the land, and they gave their lives in service to the lords of the land. And the lords, kind of like a metaphor for oinkers. I had read the books in high school, and I thought they were pretty good, although they seemed a bit wordy. And at the time I didn't realize that seem a bit wordy are typically that way because they're written by authors who are high as balls on methamphetamine. It's amazing how verbosity seems to make much more sense when you're high. Anyway, Thomas Covenant goes to the fortress keep where the lords are trying to get their shit together, and the older lord, the high lord, I forget his name, I don't have the book in front of me, but the guy who is his second in command, who takes over and is in charge in the second book, his name is Lord Morham, 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 Lord Morham, which didn't strike me as being meaningful when I was a much younger kid. But now that I've come to understand why authors write books the way they do and why books get published the way they are, and why people can't just come right out and say what they're trying to convey because of reasons. The notion that Lord Moreham and Elena, who's the product of the encounter between Lena and Covenant when he comes to the world in the first book. I don't know if you should read it. If you haven't read it already, you might not enjoy it, but Covenant lives in this empty house out on the fringe of town where he is abandoned by his wife, who takes his son away when she discovers that he has leprosy. She just abandons him. And the parallels don't stop there. And the notion that my life has become an echo of this story doesn't surprise me, since there's this girl I like who read the books. They were kind of popular in my social circle in high school, such as it was. I didn't really have a social circle. I had a bunch of little piglets who were sent to school who were pretending to be normal kids, but were actually part of a secret society of secret little piglets in blankets. I shouldn't say piglets because it's kind of rude, and then it's not really like that, but I think it's kind of funny to say, since I've long since forgiven all those people, especially since I've continued to forgive them as they've become incarnated and brought back to my frame of reality where I haven't killed myself and I haven't committed disgusting crimes against God, and I really am a believer in God, and I really am a paladin on a mission for God. All of which sounds like bullshit to anybody, but most especially to people who I went to high school with, who saw me running around school telling people, I'm an atheist! Rah! That's what most people remembered from me. And then years later, supposedly I'm a paladin. Just sounds like bullshit, doesn't it? Yeah. That's why it's awesome. Lord Moreham. Oh my God. Semper Fi, bros. Good night, Irene. Good night, Irene. I don't know more of the words. And no, I'm not going to. No, I could go on for another hour, but I'm not going to. Since I know my limits. Capiche? Click.
I'm so happy the band's doing well. By the way, what's with the hair? Is that part of the new image?
In the dark, I like to read his mind. But I'm frightened of the things I might find. Oh, there must be something he's thinking of to tear him away. When I tell him that I'm falling in love, what does he say? Hush, hush, keep it down, down. What's so scary? Hush, hush.
Doesn't this sound really innocent?
It does.
Right?
The beginning sounded so mean.
Yeah.
Is that part of your new image?
Yeah, right? This is kind of cool. I'm excited. Let's continue.
Hush, hush, keep it down, down. What's so scary? I try so hard not to get upset, because I know all the trouble I'll get. Oh, he tells me tears are something to hide and something to fear. And I try.
Doesn't that get you mad though?
Yeah.
She's like, he tells me that tears are something to hide.
Yeah.
That gets me so mad. Like,
I know.
no. But let's continue.
Oh, he tells me tears are something to hide and something to fear. And I try so hard to keep it inside, so no one can hear.
And the voice.
Keep it down, down. This is scary. Hush, hush. Keep it down, down. This is scary. Hush, hush. Keep it down, down. This is scary.
What happened? Practice run late?
You know, this little hobby of yours has gone too far. Why can't you for once do something for me?
Like what?
He wants me, but only part of the time. He wants me, if they can keep me in line. Hush, hush, keep it down, down. This is scary. Hush, hush, keep it down, down. This is scary. Hush, hush, shut up now. This is scary. Hush, hush, keep it down, down. This is scary. Hush, hush, don't let see my eyes.
These hurts. No!
No, little Flora.
This was a very powerful song.
It was tough to listen to.
I feel like listening to her voice is what defined the song. And we were saying in the beginning, it sounded so innocent. You were mentioning how the beginning was a little rough. And then it was innocent. It sounded innocent, but you hear her voice, it's like she's screaming for help.
The ending.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. She's like, he told me to
to be quiet.
be quiet. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That was sad.
I know. And she was like yelling that. I was like, no.
Yeah. Oh, when they showed that scene of her standing up and she was yelling, that's sad. And you know what? This song, honestly, is a powerful song because a lot of women can relate to this song. And in terms of having an abusive relationship and you're stuck, you feel like you're stuck, you don't know what to do. And it's really sad that in many cases this happens. And this song, Voices Carry, even the title, it gets you on edge. Because you're like, man, that's an eerie title. Honestly, I think this was a really beautiful song. It's like haunting. Her voice is haunting. And you hear it in your head and you're like, wow. That's how powerful her voice is.
And just listening to it, you're like, I want to give her a hug.
Yeah, it hurts your heart. Your heart starts beating. It's so sad. This song is a huge wake-up call for anyone who is stuck in a situation like this. And I feel like this is an empowering song in a way that it alerts others. It spreads awareness to what we all may not see. And not everyone gets to see what it's really like to be in an abusive relationship. And sometimes those women don't know. And they feel that they're stuck. They feel like they have to stay with them because they don't want to disappoint them. And as I mentioned, it's like you're walking on eggshells all the time and you don't want to say something that'll set him off. However, this song truly does define how scary a situation like that is. Even the music is extremely, it's haunting because it sticks with you. And if you're stuck in a situation like that, please reach out for help, whether it's friends or family or even in a support group. Anyone can help you, and just know that you're not alone, and you don't have to feel like you're entitled to that person, that you're stuck with them. You have to reach out to others, and you can reach out to others. Everyone will be here to support you.
So that was our reaction to Till Tuesday and their song Voices Carry.
Subscribe, bye!
Man, I feel like a step to the heart.
I know, that was a sad song.
I've been writing to this person for the business and stuff like that. But what the keyboard lines are playing with like
Maybe. This is what happens when people read tarot and they take a lot of drugs.
I'm trying to like control the situation.
Once it happens to you, it's hi, friend. I still remember that 6 to 8 week period when we were talking on the phone, and I really liked you, and then you all of a sudden had to disappear, and I understand now why that had to happen, and I think you made the right decision, and I still miss you every time I think about you, and I'm sorry to have to make that decision, because not only was it real, it's still real. I still like you, and what I found out about your nature and your situation. It doesn't make me like you any less or any differently, but it's not something I'm unfamiliar with. And then, oh, how convenient, I'm immune to that. So, I hope that it has made you happy to know that not only did you make the right decision, you didn't lose anything. Since, to be fair, at the time, had we attempted to be happy, lots of people would have denied that, since they wanted you miserable. And the same group of people wanted me miserable. And then now that I understand, whenever I think about you, I am never miserable, knowing that, I can help you. And then now that I don't know who you are at all, you lied, and I don't need to talk about that. I don't need to say your name. I know exactly who you are, I think. It doesn't matter. Yeah, so that whole thing happens a lot. It doesn't always have a happy story at all. And last I heard, Art Bell's dead, his wife's dead. I don't know what happened to his kid that had been given AIDS, but that wasn't really a story that Art Bell wanted to tell when he said, "Terrible threatening event happened to my family. Rawr, I quit. Rawr." And then from then on it was Hilly Rose, who I admire greatly. I like Hilly Rose. And then why he didn't permanently keep up the job? Well, it's because the job entailed risking the ire of groups that do shit like give fucking sexually transmitted disease to kids and then get away with it, with apparently no ability of law enforcement to track down who did it. Gee, I wonder why. And then how that used to be something people just accepted without even believing that happened, to the evolution to what we have today. It's certainly not because of me. He lied, and it's not because of my friend. He also lied. It's because of a whole bunch of people. I'm totally right. It's just me. No, I'm kidding. It doesn't matter how it happened. There's a plan. Lots of people bigger than you imagine, beyond the heliopause, quincunx. Don't fucking ask me to run down the whole fucking thing for you. Fucking, it was the biggest fucking story all over. Q, all over the place. People loved Q. Oh my God, Q. What did Q say? What? Look at the Q post, right? And then all of a sudden, whoosh, right? It was gone. Did anybody notice? Remember when they had that guy who was killed somebody in Staten Island, and he was all using a ballpoint pen to write QAnon on his hand and shit, and then that was kind of creepy, right? At least it was to people who thought that kind of thing didn't happen. No, that kind of thing happens all the time. And I don't know what's happening since I've been left fucked off and alone in a haunted church on military jurisdiction land, American burial and battleground. But it is more than just a haunted graveyard. It's also filled with toxic black mold and the sons of Cain. Actually, maybe not anymore. I like them anyway. I don't want to say vampire because that's kind of crass. And then I don't want to say sons of Cain because there's also daughters of Cain. But daughters of Cain don't hang around me because I guess I'm hot. And then I'm not above having sex with a vampire. I don't give a fuck. I'm a paladin. I got shields. And then the vampires who are male who usually strike terror into the hearts of people either don't believe in vampires or know damn well that there's both real vampires and people who just believe that they're real vampires. And there's lots of fucking crazy people who will fucking kill you for a muffin, let alone suck your blood. And yeah, they don't really like hanging around me since I respect them as much as possible. And then they're not going to fucking attack me with their fangs and shit. I mean, I'm not interested in finding out if I can roleplay Buffy the hard way, but if some guy tries to attack me with his fangs and he's thinking he's going to use his vampire powers on me and they're real, but I know what's going to happen. They're going to fucking fizzle out and then I'll fucking kill him since he's a vampire. I mean, I'm not going to try to kill him, but apparently vampires are pretty actually weak, especially when I don't know if I need to use wood. I think I can just punch him with the solar plexus. Anyway, there hasn't been any kind of battle like that since I tend to respect people. I tend to live and let live, just because they're undead or whatever. I don't really want to get involved in that kind of thing. That being said, there's plenty of twigs and sticks and shit lying around on the ground. If I end up in a fucking hand-to-hand combat battle with a vampire, well, if he can overpower me, then I guess he's a uber vampire, and then I guess if he kills me and reanimates me into a vampire paladin, well, fuck, maybe at least I'll go to a fucking orgy. Maybe I can hug myself in my coffin. Anyway, this is a ridiculous thing to think about. However, I live in a part of the world where there's plenty of people who don't really know it's real, and never did, but know that there's a bunch of people who might as well be vampires. Pushing people around and making threats and carrying out all kinds of shenanigans for a long time. And I was duck-walked down to this part of the world and unaware of the nature of Castle Rock, Washington. Although I'd certainly read about Castle Rock in Maine, the fictional place that Stephen King wrote about. Okay, well, it turns out I think Stephen King's probably been out here, since this place is old and has been inhabited by people who have a peculiar way of doing things. Most of which involves using black magic to swallow your soul and turn you into a slave through a variety of methods. And then I don't know why nobody told me about this, but the impression I'm getting is that I was expected to. Jack and Star. I don't know exactly how. X, what do you mean X? You know, if a woman gets trafficked. Remember before I said this guy was whacked out insane? This guy's whacked out insane. Or he's not getting the food. Or he's not getting the right kind of. So this person, I don't usually watch that. Yeah, go ahead, please.
And pay attention to because I know that some of that is karmic friends. Okay? Emmett says the word that the word that kind of apologize.
Why? Who you giving it to?
Remember, some people were also part of that ritual that I told you. Remember?
What does that have to do?
You have one of your old piece of clothes from
What?
the rich, the burlap, the little piece problem. Do you have anything else or anything? I took all their stuff or well, you know what? Never mind. Actually found something. I actually have something I do. Yeah, Sagittarius. I actually have something.
Better.
Sagittarius. I left their sweater. I left their shoes. I left their windbreaker. I left their tie. They left their heels. They left their dress.
So,
Yeah, like I said, they left their makeup. They left their clothes. Because remember, you guys used to party and go out.
No, actually.
I'm pretty sure. And I've done that a couple of times, man.
Oh, wow.
Right, when I used to go out and stuff like that, and I would with a sweater or something, or it would be too late. I would just
Fucking take drugs here. And apparently we have vampires too, so why this person's acting like, woo.
I left it in the car, and then I left your sweater and just
Yeah, that's what I do. Oh, it's good. Whack that.
Remember, okay, this could be someone from the action or someone from the gym. You guys are not their punching bag. This person just got abused. And the killer, they are very
Yeah, they are.
ability, physical, psychologically, emotionally. Physically, they take advantage of the pain too. Yeah,
It's a really cool thing for him to be just watching.
Yeah, bro. I'm mad at you, but they're going to prison.
Good shit.
Yeah? I'm going to stand shit. As you guys are moving, you know, some of these officials could be moving you guys. Because of this pandemic with these I have people in your community of you got to find lands, bro. Your neighbors, man, we didn't really get someone finding this land. The gang stacking, the stacking,
Can you believe this shit? It's actually on YouTube. He's got 157 viewers. Probably not. It's probably like 12.
That's not car swapping. That's part of the car swapping. Different vehicles, renting, and word recognition. And local followers. Local followers dispatch quickly. Send to the area. So the apps, WhatsApp, it could be group chats and stuff like that, Snapchats, and communicating like that, yeah. Quickly, once the person leaves that he's going to the gym. Okay, cool, alright, okay, right? Okay, at the gym, alright, yeah.
So your little
Especially observes.
not realizing
It's like squatters, whether in the parking lot or public area.
like this guy is somebody who's looked at as a counselor to the collective, which apparently consists of a bunch of people who are worried about people who are gang stalking me and don't really seem to be aware that the feds have been paying attention to everybody on Belgav ever since the guy who had like 30 million listeners overnight, who had hundreds of millions of dollars, suddenly he quits his job, and the reason why is because his kid got raped in high school. Pretty sure the feds have been peering intently at what the fuck's going on. They just didn't know what to do about it. And then I still don't know what actually happened. It's not my business. Art Bell and Ramona are and were and will always be private people. I don't want to ask Art Bell 3 what his deal is. I mean, it might seem a slam dunk for me, having been given a sexual transmitted disease while in high school, that I would want to talk to Art Bell 3 and form a little club and write support haiku. But actually, no, not at all. Since it's not like that. And then at the time, I didn't know why Art Bell was having to quit. I just knew it was kind of odd. And I didn't know why he was doing shit like having to satellite lose Earthlock. And why he was acting like he was so clever running fucking crank yankers on people. And then why it was so important for the Air Force to be able to trick people who possessed classified information to call in and then reveal classified information over the phone and then enable that person to be framed for crimes up to and including at least classified information. I mean, it makes sense to keep things under wraps considering what's actually going on. But I don't want to criticize the man since he's dead, and then he has a valid point of view. But he kind of was thinking that he was like Father's Knows Best energy. I remember the very first time I called Art Bell, he hung up on me saying, that caller just doesn't get it. And at the time, Art Bell was talking to a man who was describing the possibility of Guam flipping over. Now, I don't know how many of you know this, but Guam actually can flip over. It's designed that way. And then by talking to some guy and acting like that would be a terrible thing, well, I guess it would, except all the people who live on Guam know what to do. They just run to their hatches, and then it's like a submarine. And then the notion that the U.S. Navy has an island that could flip over, revealing whatever's underneath it to the upstairs world. That just sounds kind of fanciful. That just sounds ridiculous. Because it is. That's why it's awesome. The Navy is pretty cool at doing things. Plus, there's more than one Guam. Like, how the fuck do you know the difference between Guam 1 and Guam 2 and an artificial Guam that's got like battleship cannons on the underside and that's hiding until somebody needs to fucking fight off a kaiju or something? I mean, I don't know exactly what they got going on, but after 1955, it was pretty much hands-free use of all sorts of black op technologies that they didn't tell anybody about. They didn't want to explain that it wasn't that hard to go to the moon because they were already there with teleportation. They were already there. They invented anti-gravity. I think 49. Yeah, they went to the moon and look, we can control gravity. So the moon's not that far away if you don't have to worry about gravity. And Mars is 3 days away at constant acceleration. It doesn't take fucking 18 months to get to Mars. For one thing, they can teleport there. Jump rooms, they have those. They just don't tell you about it, Puny. Okay? And then that's probably a good idea because most people don't need to understand how civilization is tiered on Earth, which is 3 worlds, but actually 1 world in a way that isn't readily explainable. And it's also flat and round at the same time. And people in the know what I'm talking about, but they have security oaths that they take it. They've signed up with the federal government and they've agreed to not run their yap about shit like that because they're secrets. And the reason why I know is not because I'm in the military or because I stole secrets or even because I've been given a mission from God to fucking spread the truth. Fuck no. No. No, I'm simply very clever. I pay attention and I listen. And it's not really hard to figure out the truth. Because once you eliminate the improbable, whatever is left behind, no matter how impossible. Well, that's not true either. Okay? Because everything in the universe is either, it's not either. It's both and. It's not a black and white kind of thing. Everything that you can imagine exists everywhere. You just don't experience it that way. but it's there somewhere. Science fiction used to have a theory that was called many worlds. I forget, but the concept of the multiverse was one that was discussed and written about by the masters of science fiction in the 50s and 60s, and sometime around the 70s, probably because they all got busy being absorbed with rapt attention about Project Blue Book. A lot of the really good science fiction just stopped being made since, well, it's complicated. I don't want to get into it. It's a fascinating subject if you're into book publishing politics and what Operation Mindfuck really was, and who the great masters of science fiction were in their relationship to L. Ron Hubbard, and how L. Ron Hubbard and Jack Parsons were in a secret sex-swinging club where they performed ceremonial magical rituals inside pentagrams with candles and shit, having blood orgies with sex beat times, and we're trying to. Well, let's just say that there was a distinctive difference between Arthur C. Clarke and Jack Parsons, in that Arthur C. Clarke did 2001 and then 2010 and 2061, which was interesting speculative fiction, but didn't touch on any of the important shit that was actually going on, and ended up becoming totally gay and not being known for being a person who did shitloads of meth. Whereas Jack Parsons did shitloads of meth while having sex magic rituals on a military base where he blew his ass up. Which, I mean, that's the story. Whether or not they actually succeeded in opening a portal and summoning down an angelic being so they could rape it. That's the kind of thing that side of the magical ritual dudes that were working with the military were into. L. Ron Hubbard also made Dianetics, which I don't know how many of you know about what they're into, but I don't want to criticize them. Dianetics is actually kind of okay in many ways. And then I wasn't interested in finding out more about them after I found out that they expected me to give them money. Well, no. Dexter doesn't give out money. Dexter expects money to be brought back after being fucking robbed blind. But to pay them, for them to tell me what L. Ron Hubbard wrote in his book after creating a mind control cult after his sex swinging buddy blew himself up in a military base doing sex magic rituals with a pentagram and candles. Like, okay, I'm pretty sure what some of the basic secrets were in Dianetics. And then I guess they probably had to pay the military back for blowing up a base. And then all that meth and whoring doesn't come cheap. So, for all I know, Jack Parsons was killed by L. Ron Hubbard so he could get the secrets to dark occult sex magic and crystal meth. For all I know. I don't know. I do know that I didn't really know about all that stuff when I was exposed to science fiction growing up. There was Isaac Asimov, who was a Russian, but nobody told me about Ayn Rand. Nobody explained to me that Atlas Shrugged is a masterful piece of science fiction, and also is a blueprint for her philosophy that she called objectivism. And since my father was an immigrant from Europe and had a thick accent, I understood why it was that Ayn Rand was not well received in America, because she sounds like she needs to be covered in gravy, and she's got this most boring monotone you can imagine. And the notion that Ayn Rand wrote Atlas Shrugged, which is like 1,100 pages, and that she had never been exposed to psychostimulants. Like, of course they did. Duh. But now it's like illegal, and the only people who get to use it are white supremacist winkers who use it to mind control Native American women and turn them into whores. And people from outside the country who are exposed to it when they're like 9, because the stuff is incredibly easy to make. And the technology and technique to turn the base compound into the highly exotic and incredibly powerful mind control chemicals that formed the basis of the MK Ultra program. Like, that's super secret technology that the military doesn't share, but it gets stolen. And then you got dudes in South America who are playing with crystal meth and trying to infiltrate the country. Meanwhile, I'm growing up in Seattle. Everyone in my high school is high as balls and acting like I need to be kept sober. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 70s. So, it's been very gratifying to discover that my weird experiences growing up had some kind of actual reason behind them. And then rather than turn into some kind of a whacked out spur lord who wants to run around the military bases and have sex rituals with angelic beings that are summoned down with ceremonial magic. No, instead I just want to laugh at people.
Better be careful, bro. Okay? This person might even want to say that that's your crime, yeah, okay. Say someone that you know. That's crime. They might want to, like, say, oh, whatever they do, remember. They're trying to trap you back up again, right? Okay.
Okay, so this person isn't able to figure out the thread of the narrative because they're usually talking to their collective that's in on the gang. And then I'm not usually watching this guy, and I usually don't talk back and forth to a guy who's clearly having a mental health crisis and struggling to maintain control of his collective by reading tarot cards, not talking about what he's targeting, and telling the collective what to do in response to upcoming events. That's not really the job of a terror reader. It's the job of a Svengali fucking cult leader. Right? Now, to what extent this guy is familiar with Belgab, it's hard to say. Right? But the 800 or 900 or so people who make up Belgab, they don't like me. Mostly because they've been using psychostimulants for years. And they keep it on the down low. They want it to be a secret. Whereas I prefer to be lawful and have no shame whatsoever in having hardly touched the stuff ever in my entire life. Mostly because I figured out pretty early on, oh wow, this is dangerous. Oh wow, you need a support system. Oh wow, somehow everybody thinks that I shouldn't be having it. I wonder why. Well, considering what I didn't know about my father at the time, I can see why people thought that it might have been a bad idea to juice me up at the age of 13 to 17 or 14 to 17 and make me into a not child soldier. I can see why nobody wanted to tell me that. And then I can also see why people thought it'd be cool to make fun of me. Since I didn't know any of this stuff, but everyone knew. Everyone. I wasn't sure why, but it turns out it's just that kind of town. And then my father pissed off everybody, and then that was taken out on me, which is what bullies tend to do. And I don't know what the bullies thought they were missing out on by what my dad did, but apparently the bullies thought that it was pretty bad, since I was mercilessly and ruthlessly exploited for basically 40 years, and then expected simultaneously to bust my ass for some fucking job in a cubicle, doing, among other things, fixing Y2K, and then not minding, not getting a fair shake, not getting access to fun, having every friend that I ever had stripped away from me unless the military squad that was assigned to watch over me, make sure I didn't get too whacked out like my father did, I guess. I don't know. I haven't really been told what the plan was. But years later, to find myself walked into an ambush where I was expected to be sacrificed and then not have anything to do with a woman who had been deliberately juiced up with control dope without my knowledge for months. The notion that I was going to save her life and respect our commitment to each other, whether or not she was alive or dead, or reprogrammed and turned into somebody else's whore. It's amazing what these drugs do. The notion that I was going to be more than happy to be celibate, not just out of spite, but that certainly helped, and do that for 4.5 years, that never occurred to the mind of a whack job fucking sex addict, drug addict, whose every decision in life is rigorously controlled, whether they're aware of it or not, by the hunt for more drug, for more sex, because they're sex and drug addicts. Whereas I'm not addicted to sex and drugs at all. I'm not addicted to anything. I'm not chemically dependent. I don't even lust for power. I want my sweetie to know what one sorcerer could do, since she was under the impression that I was kind of a joke, and that allowed men to call her on the phone when I wasn't around and implant notions in her mind using a variety of techniques that certain psyop sex-bred teams know about. And this was Belgab's little secret project in 2020-21 that I didn't understand was happening because it never occurred to me that people were that fucking sick. And I knew there was something going on, but I figured she had a support system. I figured she had a plan. I figured if she wanted me to know, she would tell me, and then I respected her by not inquiring into whatever kind of fucking fucked off military deal she had, since I knew she had been military. I knew she was quirky, but the notion that she was part of a team of I don't know how many women were cooperating to provide the illusion that I had an actual girlfriend, but it was actually a bunch of women who were being programmed by mind control dope through a plan coordinated by Belgab to ultimately break my heart and steal all my stuff and then turn me into a raving lunatic who'd have no choice to either commit suicide or start sucking cock for drug money. Yeah, they miscalculated pretty badly. Since I don't need to suck cock. And I don't particularly feel like being forced into fucking anything, let alone sucking anything. And then I'm not really opposed to the concept of oral sex on a man, but Sweetie's got a brother who's cool. I don't know why he wouldn't be on the list first. And I'd prefer to ask my sweetie rather than have her trafficked away by a bunch of fucking white supremacist spurglord fagheads from Texas who think they're better equipped than I am to handle a woman who's in no way deserving of all this kind of garbage. And while I didn't know this kind of thing happened, I sure as shit know now. And now that I've seen it, I can see why people thought I wouldn't be able to do anything about it. I wasn't. They were going to do what they were going to do. But I could do something about what I did next, which was, I didn't let her cloud her eyes. I didn't cheat on her. She didn't kill me. I didn't let her die. And then I already knew going in that she was military. I was lucky to get to hang out with her at all. I didn't understand how MK Ultra works. I sure should understand a bit more about it now. If I ever see her again, that'll be up to somebody else. But wherever she is, she's certainly more effective than she would be if she were dead. And then she's alive on some level. And then, yeah, I'd love to see her again. However, there's a global crisis involving a bunch of douchebag controlling fucking abusive assholes who use mind control drugs to turn women into fucking mind control slaves, which doesn't even work since they're not robots, they're human women, unstable in the best of circumstances. And these highly advanced formulations of crystal methamphetamine, they're not easily made, especially since, let's just say that the crystal is a gift from God, and then God has taken away certain abilities. And I don't know who the hell was planning on just hiding behind women and juicing them up and then destroying the country from inside out. But they must have been really fucking whack job high and stupid. And imagined that pissing me off would have no long-term consequences. No, I'm really pissed off. Really pissed off. I don't want to see my lover again ever until every single one of these motherfuckers that's involved. Belgab. Every single fucking one of them, like up to 900 people. I want those fuckers off the street. I want them in fucking prison. I want them fucking under custody. I want them on fucking lockdown. I want a fucking chain gang of orange jumpsuit wearing fucking nerds. Since all of them thought that it would be the fucking funniest thing in the fucking world to juice her up and to laugh at me and to think that there was no way they were going to get caught or that it was a good idea, that she deserved it, and I was some dumb asshole who just wanted drugs and sex. Well, no. I wanted to find out what happened to Art Bell. You know, now I know. I know a whole shitload of stuff too. And rather than join their stupid little cult, I mean, I don't belong there anyway. I'm not a trained psyop warrior. I'm not a ghost. I'm not a spook. I'm not a clandestine agent. I'm not an agent of any kind. I'm a civilian. And the notion that I was going to be selected by God to be a sorcerer during COVID and earn a battlefield commission to be, well, I'm not military, but my dad was a conscripted child soldier, so he kind of raised me kind of odd. happy to help my country and serve my military in any way I can, other than to go through basic and to sign my body away so they can experiment on me. I like being on the side. In spite of how that hasn't worked out well in the past, Joan of Arc being the prime example, I don't really give a fuck if I had to be crucified. Save my sweetie. For all I know, she fucking put the bracelets on Nicolas Maduro after punching him in the jaw. She's working. She's military. Yeah, we're busy. And I'm proud to know that whatever she's doing, at least she knows I'm not some big stupid fucking asshole trafficking pussy like, well, I don't want to say Michael Van Deven, because I mean, he's a stud, right?